load save 3 for mushrooms. So, load save 3. This video is to illustrate how the mental health and addictions work. Oh, what the f***? Oh, this is a bug. Live bug discovery. Wow, that's a lot of resources. Sheesh! Well, that's interesting. Anyway, this is to illustrate how the mental health and addiction systems work. So, I experienced that bug there probably because I reset my save a lot at that first time to try and roll mushrooms at the max addiction level. So, this character is addicted maximally to mushrooms, and I did that specifically because your addictions are really going to be the biggest issue that your sanity faces, your mental health. So what we're going to do immediately, one of the first and best things that you can do to get rid of your addictions, no matter what, is by volunteering. So what we're going to do is just beeline it to the volunteer center so that we can burn off just a little quick burst right off the beginning. We're probably not going to be able to volunteer for very long because, again, our addiction is quite severe. There we go. We actually did the whole session, but I'm pretty sure our addiction is going to prevent us from doing any more. Yeah. But we got a lot of band-aids. That was a cool glitch to experience. That was not planned. Alright, we're going to get a little bit of a buff from the shower, but that's not that important. We are addicted to mushrooms right now, and luckily, the addiction process for mushrooms is both the hardest and easiest, right, for us to get over. Now that we are at 100% need, all we're going to do is go over to the other method of recovery, the player-owned sauna. Let's see if we can't get some peas. Gonna go over to the player-owned sauna and introduce you to the next step of recovery for mushroom addiction. One of the main sources of your mental health being drained is from addictions, and one of the main sources of the addictions is from those five starting choices that you pick at the beginning. I think only 3 of them matter, and you don't necessarily. I have no money. That's interesting. Might be a problem. That's no problem. That's merely a challenge, right? An opportunity to be resourceful. Glitches notwithstanding, the things that will influence your addictions the most are those 5 starting decisions that you make at the very beginning. Your addictions are going to be the main source for your negative sanity, and in the case of mushrooms, feeding them is going to not be the best way to recover from it. But in the other 2 addictions case, you will probably be feeding them. So, we're going to get some money here. It's interesting that I didn't start with any. We're going to go over to the player-owned sauna and try and work off this addiction. Now, the sauna is important for your recovery process because it allows you to, while you're inside, recover from addictions at twice the normal rate, I think, if I'm interpreting the numbers on the wiki correctly. The sauna, without any upgrades, requires solid fuel to power, and when we get in here, I'll explain how to use it. It always starts with solid fuel outside, so just take some and head on inside. This character is Sag Manison, and I've started him off with starting decisions. I save and loaded, that's why I guess I don't have any money and I was able to dupe the starting materials, but I started a new character specifically so that he would be only addicted to mushrooms and he would be addicted at the maximum strength. So this is probably the highest level of addiction to mushrooms that you'll experience naturally without having to artificially inflate it yourself by taking drugs. And what we're going to do in the sauna with the solid fuel is put it into this little barrel stove. And this will give us hours of time to be in here while the sauna is warmed up. And this is the thermostat. You want the sauna to be over 60 when you try to use this bucket to throw water on the coals. So before we do this, it's not super important, but I'm going to go and get a alarm clock. I'm going to go get a sledgehammer from this side of the tenement, and I'm going to go get an alarm clock from Kolhola so that I can keep track of time a little bit easier. So this is Sag Manison, and he's addicted to mushrooms, right? At the fully max addiction level. His mushroom need is at 100 right now, and it's going to basically sit there. I'm going to avoid any sources of mushroom while I'm recovering from it beneath, like, maybe the 50% addiction threshold. Until the 50% addiction threshold. Then I might start feeding it while I volunteer. But until then, we're just gonna suffer. What did I come over here for? Kolhola. I did a lot of runs of trying to know how to get over the addictions, and these are difficult processes to get over. These addictions are all difficult to get over. The smoking is, I guess, the least difficult to get over, but it is still quite the task to drop it from 90 to 0. Now, if you're not as severely addicted, you might just try to skip ahead to the volunteer or gambling section, whichever I label it as. And we're gonna come back here. Biohazard department for a few things. I picked up a flashlight. There's the possibility for a backpack to spawn in one of these rear chests. And there's also a bunch of medicine, but I guess we won't be needing a ton of it. There's a ton of food and generally just a lot of resources that you can use early on. Definitely recommend this little area. Recommend you make a beeline for this area, really. Alright, and then we're gonna pick up a bit of money that's just laying on the ground. I forgot that was there. Alright. Good thing we have 100 of these. We're gonna go back to our sauna. And the reason why we got the alarm clock is because it makes it far easier to... Oh, you know what we also get while we're here? It's very convenient to come to Kolhola because all of their sinks, no matter what room you're in, all of the sinks will allow you to fill containers up with clean water. And this clean water will allow you to go through the sauna with ease. Probably didn't need it because of all the Evian we duped, but... Alright, so you might be seeing my sanity being really low, and that might scare you, but really, the only threat sanity has to your player is occasionally, and I mean this very occasionally, you will experience a bleed effect that happens when your player satisfies his insanity, to put it lightly. You can very easily endure this with adhesive bandages or regular bandages, so it's not really that necessary during the mushroom recovery process at this level. It's not necessary in the alcohol process either, or the cigarettes, but at this level, and especially for mushroom addiction specifically, there's nothing you can feed your addiction with that will allow you to lose mushroom addiction and not be insane. You must just suffer through insanity during this recovery process, at least until the 50% threshold. And what we're gonna do is wait for that temperature gauge up in the top left to say it is above 60, and you really need to wait until it's above 60, right? And then we're gonna look in the top right corner of our screen to our clock, and we are gonna hit this bucket of water every time the third number, or the fourth number, the last number in the position says 0 or 5. Okay, those are the only rules to the sauna. You can let it be as hot as you want, but it has to be above 60 degrees Celsius. And you hit this bucket of water every time that your clock says 5 or 0 in the final position. You will be perfectly balanced with all of you're able to stay in here for like at least an hour and a half. And really the only reason we're in here is because we're unable to volunteer at this moment. The sauna is our only option for doing anything to advance the recovery of the mushroom addiction, or any addiction for that matter. But mushroom addiction is particularly severe in that you can't feed, so it is difficult to do the gambling loop with the mushroom addiction this severe and still be able to volunteer for any significant length of time. Functionally, you're just going to sit in here until you're just going to sit in the sauna until you start taking damage, and you're going to repeat that process until you're below 50% addiction threshold with any of the addictions. That's the process, unless you can do the gambling loop. Now, on average, no matter the addiction, if I'm sitting in the sauna and I'm not feeding the addiction, I'll be able to sit in there long enough to reduce the addiction amount by about 2%. Right now, I'm at about 84% with my mushrooms, and if I were to satisfy the mushroom need by like taking a Winstead, smoking a rollie, or eating a mushroom, something like that, doing something to imbibe mushrooms, it would, no matter what I would do, it would increase the mushroom addiction to higher than before I had eaten it. There won't ever be a moment where you can escape that loop. So what we're going to do here is the OS Mart and many other locations. This isn't just at OS Mart. There's like one in the mines and everything. Anytime you're gambling and you win, no matter the wager, you will get a mental health boost. Now, in future updates, like post-Bazaar, and even in like the early release builds that they have available on GitHub, you will get addicted to gambling. I don't even know if it's in this game yet, like in the actual build yet. That is planned for the future, so this method of recovery might get nerfed. But essentially, you're just going to sit here and bet 1 OC, And this is very cost efficient, even though I have like no money. We're at about 9% mental health right now. Ooh, nice. Okay. Yep, we were at 9 and we jumped up to 21. That's actually enough to volunteer with. Now this method is a little, you know, I mean, both methods are patience intensive, right? But now we can go and volunteer, and it probably, you know, we won't be able to volunteer for very long. But you want to really just get your addiction down if you're going to go and volunteer. And so this is the volunteer center. I showed this off earlier. But when you're below a certain threshold, they won't allow you to volunteer again, right? Yeah, see? And what volunteering does is it allows you to pass time while gaining mental health. While the player-owned sauna will help you to pass the normal flow of time with an increased, you know, addiction reduction rate, like, it's a little bit more efficient to just go through the process of volunteering if you're able to. But as the mushroom addiction is too powerful right now, it's too severely advanced, we need to just sit in the sauna and endure the need until we can go through an entire cycle of volunteering without losing any sanity. I'm not going to sit here and do the whole thing because I have done it, and this takes forever. The sauna method takes forever. If you find a way to juggle the gambling method with, you know, enduring mushroom addiction while you volunteer, I highly recommend it, but it's a delicate balancing act, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to manually set my mushroom need back to 50, or down to like maybe 49 or whatever, and then I'm going to go through the volunteer and Gamba recovery method. Player stats mushroom addiction set 50. Right, and then player stats get... Okay, my mushroom addiction is back down to below 50. I guess I could have used that command to set all of my stats to 99 instead of going through the really difficult trouble of rolling my stats to 90 each time. Guess I could remember that for the future. And you see at this strength, it starts to fuck us up, right? Right at 50, it starts to reduce our sanity, right? But we can still take another hit. Mushroom addiction is at 47, right? Smoking went up because we're smoking Winsteads. It's not that big of a deal. We're gonna smoke another Winstead. Yeah, that increases it by like almost 0.5% each. Doing 2 in a row increases it by 1%, but as far as I've experienced, this volunteer process will decrease it by about 2%, right? So you're net gaining every time you volunteer, so just come in here with stuff that won't expire and volunteer for the whole session. And as long as you're healthy, you know, you got your mental health, you've got a little bit of room to wiggle with, you'll be completely fine suffering this temporary inconvenience of low sanity. See, look, my mushroom need didn't even exceed 100 this go around, right? So now I'm not losing any sanity at all from the mushrooms. After a certain threshold, you won't need to feed your addiction anymore, like below 25 or 20. You won't need to address the addiction at all. You can just volunteer through the sanity loss. Let's do a stat check. And you see we're net losing our addiction. You know, we just fed it and it's below the threshold that we were before. So this is the routine. If you are losing sanity, if you are going through this process and maybe you're at 65, here I'll set my mushroom addiction to around 65. That way you can see the gambling loop with mushroom sickness. It's a little bit more severe at 65, right? You get 2 points into it in the random rolls. So our mushroom addiction is now probably, if we go through let's go through the volunteer center and see if we can survive a whole round without losing any sanity. Starting to turn red around 2 hours, blinking at like hour and a half, and yeah, we are losing a lot of sanity going through that. 32. Right, and we just had to use about 1% of the thing. Let's open up our console again, the F1 console, and type in player stats get to show our current need. It went down from 65 to 62 basically with that. So that, I guess, provided you have some external mental health boost, is cost effective, right? And so what you do to get that mental health back, if it's below 20, which is what you need to volunteer with, you'll come over here to the Gamba machine in the OS Mart. That's just free soap? Damn. But you'll come over to the OS Mart and you'll Gamba until you win. and you'll raise your sanity back up over the threshold. Every time you win at gambling, you get around 12% sanity. So you'll just come over here until usually you get turnips, but sometimes you'll get the tomatoes or the chicken. Okay, and you see the need will build up while you're gambling too, so this is kind of a... Hey, look at that, we got it. Kind of a balancing act, right? But you can usually net your sanity and more. So this is a pretty efficient way to manage the sanity loss, even if you're over that 50% threshold. Now remember, I set it to 65, and I'm pretty sure this is probably the furthest out you could do and still manage to gamble your way back to net positive sanity. So you find your own threshold, whatever's the most tolerable for you, but this little routine of hopping between the volunteer center, oops, I don't want to make a donation, I don't have the money for that. Hopping between the volunteer center, hopping between the OS Mart to gamble, and the sauna for really severe cases, right? That's the process of recovery for any addiction. But mushrooms, in my opinion, are the most severe in that you kind of have to endure sanity loss for the really severe cases. Now, the coffee that you can make up here, the Pekka coffee, is not the best. If you can buy coffee and your cooking skill is pretty high, you'll actually get like incredible benefits for just coming up here and brewing coffee in between rounds. So don't sleep on the coffee method, especially because at the time being, there's no real penalty to constantly doing this. In future updates, I think that Tesla said in the Steam threads that there would be penalties. There'd be some kind of sleep debt for you constantly, babying your sleep with coffee. You'll build up some kind of external sleep debt that you'll eventually have to pay off. But at the time being, like I said, with the Gamba thing as well, these are all methods that work right now. We're finished with mushroom sickness. Let me set it back down to around 20. Let me set it down. Let's down to like 40 addiction level, right? Higher addiction threshold Gamba method of recovering your sanity. Let's also recover our sanity. And so what I've just done is I've set our mushroom sickness, our mushroom addiction back down to 39, right? And the smoking addiction is going up too. So I don't think I haven't noticed that. It's just because of all the smoking the Winsteads to reset it. Once we get below a certain threshold with the mushroom addiction, the smoking addiction will just go away on its own. The mushroom addiction is far more severe. And as that goes away, the smoking addiction will just disappear without you even seeing it. We're gaining sanity here too. We haven't lost much. We'll continue eating. Canned food is really good here. If you can stock up on canned or bottled food like this, you're going to want to. Getting these empty mason jars will allow you to take any stolen vegetables and turn them into legal. See these peas here? You put them, they're stolen peas, but you put an owned bottle in there, and suddenly they belong to you, right? You cook them in a little thing. That's really good cooking EXP too. We started back off at 40, right? And then we'll check on our stats, and our mushroom addiction has almost gone down 10%. It's basically gone down an entire 8% since we started this method. And what is the smoking? The smoking, yeah, it's also going down. It's negligible. It'll just go away on its own. That is how you completely remove all of the different addictions in the game. The mushrooms are by far the hardest. So if you can drop it below the 65% threshold with just the sauna and suffering the sanity loss, you'd be wise to do so. And then try to come over to the OS Mart and do the Gamba volunteer combo. And then when you have below maybe 40% or 40% threshold, you come over here to the volunteer center and you start doing exclusively back-to-back volunteer sessions. All right, I think you can get the idea that at this point, I'm pretty much over the mushroom addiction. I know I was flipping around a lot with the admin commands, but we are going to set our alcohol addiction to 90 and illustrate to you. Okay, so our alcohol addiction is 90 and all the other addictions are 0. When we volunteer at this stage of alcoholism, we'll essentially never be net positive. We'll never be able to escape the same insanity cycle that you saw with the mushrooms. Unlike the mushrooms, you don't have to suffer insanity while you are feeding the addiction. Come up here. I guess I could have just set my tiredness to whatever, but this is also just illustrating how useful this coffee machine is. All right, so with alcohol addiction, I am just gonna beeline it over to the sauna because it is one of the more useful tools in the advanced stages of alcoholism for you to reduce it. It's the same exact method as the mushrooms at high addiction. You're just not going to have to suffer through any of the disbenefits of the addiction, of like suffering the addiction. You can get a bit of alcohol for free. There's also an alcohol spawn up in that Kolhola apartment inside of the dresser that I got the flashlight in, but I can just always... It's only 9 a.m., so I don't think that guy's open, but I can always steal from this liquor vendor right here to satisfy my alcohol needs. But these olutes should hold up. There's also a man in Deagula C or B, one of the two, that has a whole bunch of olutes. If he's in B, you'll have to advance the quest a little bit to get access to it. But so alcoholism is also affected by your drinking level. Now, if you're a completionist and you're trying to get like all the skills to level 10, you're probably going to experience a situation where you're completely addicted to alcohol and your drinking level is also super duper high. And what the drinking level is effectively is your internal character's like tolerance, like your liver tolerance to alcohol. And so drinking underpowered drinks like the canned olutes that only have 10 power, or like wine that only has 4 power, is going to be, or strength I guess is what this was called, is not going to completely remove your feed, right? And so you're gonna have to feed multiple times, and that's less efficient than just feeding once on something big, right? So the goal for alcoholism is to find the right drink for your combination of your, well, I guess I haven't ever taken a drink before, but your drinking strength versus your drinking, or your alcohol addiction versus your drinking level, right? So if you're a completionist and you have level 10 drinking and you're trying to get rid of the alcoholism that came from that, because you kind of have to get it, you're going to want to get stronger alcohol, like the 2 different kind of wines that are not that don't have any quality assigned to them. The Soka Junior at extremely, like if you are level 10 drinking and you have 100% addiction, you will actually need this kind of strength to start recovering, right? And what I experienced at this particular level of alcoholism with level 10 drinking is that this essentially equated to like far less, like basically like 20 strength with the intensity of how high my drinking level was. So it's not straightforward. If you have high drinking level, you may have to drink something different, but basically with no drinking level, you'll only have to drink olutes. You'll either have to drink the bottled olutes at first, and then later you'll transition to just the canned olutes. And like I said, you hit this button every 5 to 10, or every 5 minutes. And what's different about this sauna loop from the mushrooms is that we don't have to suffer through the addiction, and that's why we bought the beer. So when we reach 99 need, we will drink the bottled olutes until we're below maybe 65% addiction. And then you can transition over to the canned olutes, which I'll show off during the volunteer section of the alcohol portion. Hey, perfect. So, when your alcohol need starts to exceed 90, you'll drink an olute, and you'll probably be at the point where you're also overheating from the sauna. So it's good to just kind of time this at the same points in time. Oh yeah, also don't leave the sauna running or you'll burn off your fuel, your solid fuel. And you'll just come out here, you'll reorient yourself, you'll get, full up on your resources. And what I normally do to time out the sauna overheat, kind of getting burnt off of you, is I'll just take a little loop around the tenement. If your tenement is too upgraded, you actually can't do this. But if it's this low, you'll be fine. I just take a loop around the tenement, and I come back into the sauna. And even if I had been, being injured and overheated, I'll be able to come back in and do another round of sauna exercise, of just like sitting here and soaking through the alcohol need. But I'm not going to really do that. And so what you'll be doing is sitting in here and feeding the sauna until you're below about 65%. And then identical to the mushroom sickness is and so if we do the stats get command again, we can see that our addiction is 65 and our need is 0, right? So we can start doing gamble core and maintaining our sanity. Let's set the sanity to something really low. Right? Let's go to 30. We'll set it to 30 because that's you usually get around 32, and then you'll go back to volunteering. All right, but what you're gonna do when you get your alcohol addiction to below 65 is you're gonna come back over, just like the mushrooms, to the Redemption Militia and start to volunteer and burn off that addiction. Yeah. All right. So you won't be able to do a full session, right? All right. We did one session. Let's feed up. And you don't have to worry about your water or toilet habits while you're doing volunteer work. The alcohol provides a temporary buff, right? So you don't have to worry about cuts, but that temporary buff won't allow you to go back and do another round of volunteering. Alright, and then while we're volunteering, we're building up that sanity too. Nope, alright, and I don't think we have enough to go through another volunteer session. We would have enough sleep, but nope, we can't do it again. So like I said, you go back over to the Gamble Core, you go back over to OS Mart, and you start gambling until you bring that sanity back up to about 32%, usually around 30 to 32%. And again, all that involves doing 1 coin in, and hopefully you get 2 coins out. But that's the loop. And the only difference, to reiterate, the only difference from the mushroom addiction is that first initial step with the sauna, wherein you don't need the bandages. And you saw during my sauna session with the mushrooms, I didn't need the bandages off. The only time I used them was when I accidentally stepped on the claptrap. And the last addiction that isn't the duck is going to be the smoking addiction. And in my opinion, the smoking addiction is by far the easiest one to get over, because there's so many sources to get free cigarettes and lighters and matches that there's really no reason for you to be suffering from the lack of feeding. Our smoking addiction is 90 now, and we have Winsteads. That's probably not the smartest thing to smoke to get rid of smoking addiction, so we'll stop by. And so if you don't get any cigarettes with your starter kit, I don't know if it spawns, but you can always come up here and get a pack of zebra cigarettes. This is also used for another quest, and you can come up here to this room, this messy room, and there's always matches. There's also another cigarette spawn. There's the matches right there under the bottle I just dropped, and then there's the cigarettes. And there's also a coffee spawn. We're gonna set our depression to like, yeah, 30, right? And that's gonna make us able to do the... Did that like set it to something higher than 30? It seems weird that the moodlet is gone. And this kind of operates identically to the other 2 addictions in that you're not going to be able to just volunteer this off immediately. But unlike the other 2 addictions, any cigarette will satisfy your need completely. So there's no strengths to really manage. You don't have to like learn about like what sources generate what, levels of cigarettes. It's just any cigarette will get you down to and you can do ducky strikes because they have slightly less, but any of the cigarettes will do it for you. Doesn't matter what the brand is. You're probably going to lose it quicker with ducky strikes as opposed to zebras, but the difference is negligible. And that's the only difference. Besides the fact that you don't need to suffer through sanity loss like the mushrooms, it's identical to alcoholism. You just go and do this and then recover your sanity with either a shower or gambling, and you're good to go. You just continue on exactly like the other 2 methods. But those are the addictions, I can set it to the lower numbers again, but you'll just be seeing the same footage. Now I'm going to show you, once you're done and you're recovered with addictions, that's when you should work on, going to Kolhola and working for the telemarketer or whatever you want to do, right? So we're going to set all our addictions to 0. We're going to show our stats again, see we have no addictions. Alright, so as you may have figured out, you can come to Kolhola, and provided it's convenient that the time of day is within the window that we're allowed to work at Kolhola. But basically you have to come here between 6 and 12, if I recall. Talk to this intercom. Do you have any work for me? And it says, the pay and everything. In between 6 and 12, and say yes. The door will be opened, and now this door is permanently open, by the way. You come over to this workstation, and you click it to start the working period, and it will... Unlike the volunteer, this will not give you water and bathroom needs, so you'll also need to generate those on top of it, and it will actively drain your sanity. Right, so if you're new to the game and you're curious, why is my sanity going down all the time? All I do is go to work and go home. Well, that's probably why. It's because you don't know it, but working at this job that pays you money actually costs you sanity. Go figure. It's like they're trying to say something. There is another job, and I obviously don't have access to it if you know what it is right off the rip. But we're going to go over to my main save, and I'm going to go over to Tenement A and show you another job that's available to you later on in the game's campaign. If you want to avoid spoilers, click ahead to this timestamp. But basically, there's another job available to you that functions almost identically to the telemarketer job. Right, and it's available in Tenement A, which you unlock through a long series of different quests, and you must get your forged passport first, and then you'll have access to this Tenement A, the interior of it. I have a video about how to get the passport if you are not familiar with that section of the game. Alright, so we're going to go over to, and I have different resources in this, so don't be confused about what you're seeing. This is kind of later in the campaign, so normally you won't have access to this job early on, but I do want to illustrate that this job also requires you to sacrifice some of your sanity and other resources in order to work and benefit from it. Last chance to click away if you don't want to see any spoilers. You'll come up here to the fourth or fifth floor, I actually don't remember which one, but it'll have a key card on it, or an intercom. You'll talk to the intercom, and you'll ask him if he's got any work available, and you know, it'll be pretty easy to convince him that you want to work for him. You'll come up to Louis Green, and he's like, are you here to make some quality lanterns? And you'll work for him. And this option also, I guess, takes like 7 hours, not 8, right? And you'll consume basically the same resources. But I think this is a better pay rate. I don't know the conversion. Right? Yeah, a little bit better pay rate. And then it comes with a bathroom, so just like the other one, you don't need to worry too much about your bathroom habits or your cleanliness. This is actually a great 3D printer too. You should investigate this area. What the f? And so this will require your sanity, and unless you've got the food, see, that reduced it by almost 40%. I was at 100% sanity in the save, and so you're going to need to do something to recover. So if you're interested in pursuing the work options available to you in this game, you're going to need to recognize that they require you to sacrifice mental health in order to profit from them. Now, that's not an issue. You can easily invest some of your mental health if that's something that interests you in this game, if you want to go and do the work. Just understand that you will need to do some degree of volunteer work. You'll need to maybe get prescription antibiotics from Scadia. You'll need to do something to address the depression quality to your working. Like I said in the other two, in the addiction portion of the video, your volunteering is going to be the single most important resource for you to come and either burn away addictions or, oh my god, to burn away addictions or to increase your sanity at the cost of like time and a few other resources. Now, if you've watched my glitch video, you'll know that some of the resources are functionally, well, all of the resources are functionally infinite to you. Right? You won't ever need to worry about your food or water if you've seen the glitch video. And there will be another glitch video where I, illustrate some of the other glitches that I've found since then. But if you're working, you'll have to come and recover sanity somehow. It costs sanity to benefit from the working. And as you'll see after this won't be that beneficial for me in terms of sanity. I don't even think the mood will go away. Your job costs a lot of sanity, and volunteering doesn't give it back to you as quick. So don't plan on working every single day of the week unless you have some kind of strategy to address your mental health. I hope this video helped you. I hope you can manage your mental health better now. Focus on getting rid of your addictions before managing your mental health. Those addictions are going to be the single most important factor that are influencing your mental health outside of working. There are other sources of sanity loss, like eating bad tasting foods and like eating bleach and other crap like that, but you can generally avoid them. Those are very obviously presented to you as like bad decisions. So, if it's a decision between eating an irradiated rat and a pizza, maybe pick the pizza, and you'll just completely avoid all of the negative benefits of eating, or the negative things of eating. There's some misconceptions, right? Like, people have been saying in the threads, like, stealing or scam invoice sending will generate some kind of negative sanity for you. That's not true. That is completely untrue. You will not suffer like negative sanity from committing crimes. Generating your theft is independent of your sanity loss. I've never experienced a moment where I steal and I've suffered. You have no concept of how high this guy's crime level is. You don't understand how much money this character has stolen. There is no negative effects of stealing. Not that I've experienced. This entire palatial estate has been built upon stolen resources. But yeah, that misconception that stealing, is going to generate you negative karma, that's incorrect. It's false information. But thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.